Hi everybody, it's me. I know it's been a while since I've done an update last, but I'm still here, and as you know, my daughter has been born yet. Since the last time I made an update, I was 34 weeks, I think. So, um, yeah, it's now July 16th, and I wanted to do an update. I will say I have on my computer some videos from my labor and after my delivery, um, but they are acting funny, so I don't want to incorporate them into this video until I figure out how to make them a little better quality. Um, so, yeah, so, like I said, she's here. I'm trying to feed her right now. So if you hear any loud noise or anything like that, um, she's trying to escape. So yeah, she was born on June 4th at 8:22 p.m. She was 6 pounds and 14 ounces and 19.5 inches long. She was born via C-section because of some things that happened during labor, and I'll get to it. Um, I wish I could incorporate those videos. I'm so upset that I can't. But anyway, so on June 3rd, I went to not the ER, but I registered at the emergency department of the women's hospital, and I got there at 6:30 in the morning. So when I got there, I thought immediately that I was going to start getting medications for induction, and I didn't get it right away. They did put me on IV just to give me IV fluids, and I had a chance to sit there and wait for a while. But I was having contractions already, which a lot of you know from Facebook that I had been having contractions for a week or so. I had been having pretty close together, strong contractions um, for about about a week. So they were just watching the contractions and that kind of thing. So later on in that day, probably about 11 o'clock, and about 11 o'clock in the morning, actually, so it was later in the day, they decided to give me Cytotec. Now, that was the only medication that I was against um, using for induction, but that's the only one they had, so I had to use it. So they started off with a really small dose, and they put it in about 15 minutes or so after um, put in the Cytotec by my cervix. My contractions started to pick up quite a bit. They started getting closer together. Before, when I first got there, they were 5 to 7 minutes or so apart. And after the Cytotec, they became about 2 minutes apart. And they were quite stronger, quite a bit stronger than what they were. So that's all I did for a while was the Cytotec. I laid around and watched TV, and that was about it. Sorry, y'all. Um, so a few hours went by. I've been watching the contractions and checking me, and I was still 2 centimeters. I was still 2.5 centimeters as the day was going. So they decided to put the Foley bulb in at about 3 o'clock on June 3rd, and the Foley bulb was to stretch me until I was about 4 centimeters. And I asked them, did it hurt? Was it going to hurt to get in? They was like, well, it feels like getting an exam. And I was like, okay, cool. let's do it. And they put that thing in there, and this video may be TMI. This video may sound like a horror story or something. It's really not. This is just what happened to me. So the volleyball hurt. Well, it didn't hurt. It just made contractions really strong after that, and the contractions hurt. So uh, as soon as they inflated it, the contractions felt so much different. They triggered really strong contractions, so Foley triggered contractions. So um, that was tough for a while. For about the next hour, the contractions were really hard contractions. So they kept up pretty good for quite a while. They felt more intense, like they were really pushing down. I thought they were going to push the thing out. I kept telling them, I feel like this thing is going to fall out. It's going to fall out. Because the contractions just felt like they were pushing it out. So, but needless to say, the thing stayed in there until about 12 o'clock, midnight, because every time they came to pull on it to see if it would come out, it didn't. So after about 8 hours or so of it staying in there, it finally came out. Um, and I was around 4 centimeters then. So through the night, they kept coming in the room saying, "We want to give you pitocin um, because we want to get your contractions closer." And I didn't understand how they were going to do that because they were already about 2 minutes apart and lasting about a minute, or lasting about a minute. So they kept saying, the pain, the pain, the pain is gonna be, you know, you're not gonna get a break and blah blah blah. We think you should do an epidural. I didn't want to do an epidural. This whole time I've been saying I didn't want to, and I was just like, well, okay, y'all do this every day, so let's try the epidural. So I got the epidural, and after it was over, which only took about 5 minutes, it didn't hurt. It wasn't bad at all. After sitting there for a few minutes, I started feeling funny. And I was like, well, I'm feeling lightheaded. So it's like I don't feel right. And then I started getting lightheaded and the room started spinning and I started seeing spots. And the lady rushed over and put my bed all the way down, so I was flat on my back. And she kept asking me questions, and I'm going to put some medicine in your IV, so just hold still for a second, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, what's happening? And she was like, well, your blood pressure is going down quite a bit, and that's what's making you feel like you're going to pass out. And I was like, down? Well, how much? Well, I think my blood pressure went to like 70 something over 30 something at its lowest. Well, that's the last time she told me. So I was scared. I was horrified. I thought I was gonna die. My mother and my husband were there, and they kept trying to tell me to go to sleep, take a nap, so you can relax, and I just couldn't. I was like, I'm gonna die in my sleep if I close my eyes. So I didn't. For a while, I just lay there. And I told them, I kept saying, look, y'all can turn this off. You can take it out if this is how I'm going to have to feel, from it. And they, of course, they wouldn't do it. So um, I just sat there through the night. For the rest of the night, I calmed down. The shaking that from the epidural calmed down. My anxiety um, got better. Everything was better. So they kept coming in, checking me, and I was still, actually, I was progressing a little bit. It was 4, then it was 5, and I was 6. And I stayed 6 for quite a while. Then I went to about 6.5. And about, in the next afternoon, they kept coming in, and every time they came in and checked me, I was 6.5 centimeters, 6.5 centimeters. Then I was 7. Then I was back to 6.5 centimeters. And I guess that was because she might have turned her head or something, which took a little bit of pressure off my cervix. So they came in about 6 on June 4th in the evening and said, your cervix is changing. Um, there were some points where her heart rate started slowing down. Um, with the monitors, they had to put, of course, they put in a catheter. They put in the monitor that was on her scalp. They put in a monitor beside her to monitor her heart rate, things like that. And so her heart rate would dip down with some contractions, but most of the time she was fine. Thank you all. Sorry. So then, um, what happened? They came in and they were like, well, we're concerned because your cervix isn't changing, and we're a little concerned about that, and you've been in labor for a long time. So it's like, yeah, I'm just ready for something to happen. Um, I was frustrated. I was tired of not being able to move my legs. I was tired of having to ask you for help. I was tired of being in that bed. I was just exhausted. I was tired. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't get comfortable or anything. So, oh, baby. So, um, they wanted to do a C-section. And at that point, my husband had just left because he was going to go let our dog out and feed her. So as soon as he left, I had to call him and say, well, just hurry back. As soon as you get done with the dog, come right back because they want to do a C-section. And he said, okay. And he rushed back. And as soon as I hung up the phone, they started prepping me. They started shaving me. They started giving me the little things on my head. Everything. It was like, we're going to be ready by the time he comes back. So we got everything together. My mom came back in, and my brothers were there. I called my sister-in-law because she works at that hospital. And everybody came, and they were ready for the C-section. So we waited for my husband, got there. They gave him his clothes and let him know what he needed to do and all that stuff. They wheeled me back. Um, while I was getting ready for the surgery, before my husband came in, they were giving me all the instructions and everything about what not to do. They didn't strap my hands down because I didn't want them to, honestly. So they didn't give me more of a shot of epidural. They gave me lidocaine, which is a numbing medicine. It does the same thing, but you just don't have the same side effects. So, she was gassy. So, we came in and they started everything. And they started asking me, "Can you feel this?" Which was higher up, or I could feel it. Yeah, I could feel that. And they worked their way down, so I couldn't feel it. And they started the surgery. And oh, when they started the surgery, it went fairly quick. They were cutting through, about to take her out after about 7 minutes or so. And when they started taking her out, I heard them say, "We got cord." So the cord was around her neck twice, which um, probably had a little something to do with why she wasn't coming down any more than what she was. So, uh, and her head was turned in the wrong direction to allow her to come through the birth canal. So she's gassy. Poor baby. So, they took her out, and she didn't cry right away. I heard her whimper a little bit, but she didn't cry right away. And I asked him, was she okay? And so, yeah, she's fine. She's okay. So, my husband went over with her, and she still didn't cry a lot. She did cry a little, but she was mostly quiet. So they brought her over to me and let me see her and let me kiss her, and she was grunting like this. Actually, when she was trying to breathe, she was grunting, and it was because she wasn't breathing very well. She had fluid in her lungs. Yeah, because she had fluid in her lungs. So they wheeled her out and suctioned her out and tried to get all that stuff out of her lungs. And they wheeled me to, well, before they did that, after she was out, I started going, something hurts. And the lady didn't say anything that was standing by my head. And I said, ma'am, something hurts. And she goes, you can feel that? And I was like, yeah, it hurts. So obviously the anesthesia started wearing off, and I could feel what they were doing in my abdominal cavity. It wasn't bad, but it hurt and I could feel it. So, um, what happened? Then they gave me more medicine and I was fine after that. So by then, to keep myself from being very stressed, I just closed my eyes and tried to doze off. So I went to recovery. I was in recovery probably about an hour and a half, maybe. They told me I couldn't go out until I could bend my knees. So during that time, I still was not able to see her. I wasn't able to hold her. My husband was with her, so he got to do the bonding and the skin to skin, and they let him come back where I was. I almost feel like I'm about to cry. They let him come back where I was, and he told me about her, and he was smiling, and he was so happy to be able to be back there to bond with her and everything, and how everything was fine, and he told me how he was scared, and um, but he couldn't stay long, so he went back to her, and they let my mom come back. They honestly weren't supposed to let anybody come back, but they let my mom come back too, and um, my brother came back to see me too. So they just told me how everything was going and all that, and then as soon as the feeling came back, they let me go to my room, and that's where I stayed at until I got out the hospital. But when I got into my room, they let her come in, and she was breathing fine. Then she was quiet because she was hungry, so I tried to feed her, and um, it all went. It went. It seemed like a lot, but it was okay. It went okay. Um, so I had been trying to breastfeed her the whole time in the hospital, and everything was going well. My milk didn't come in until after I left the hospital. She was 6 days old when my milk came in. So, um, but yeah, she was a little tiny little thing, and like I said, I have a video of her after she was born. Actually, it was right before we left to come home. We'd be thinking all over the place, y'all. So, yeah, this is her. She is 6 weeks old today, so she's quite a bit bigger than what she was at the hospital, but she's still a little tiny little thing. And I'm interrupting her nap right now, so here is my little face. Here's my little face. Hi, baby. Say hi, baby. Say hi, baby. She's trying to get out that mean gas. She's trying to get out that mean gas. She said it's bright. Is it bright, baby? Mwah. So she's So last time they checked, she was 7 pounds and 2 ounces or something like that. So that was about 2 weeks ago. She's probably about closer to 9 pounds now. So she's doing well. She's exclusively breastfeeding. I haven't even pumped in about the last week or so. So she's doing really well. Um, she's trying to get her sleeping pattern together, but she's just waking up from a little short nap she had. So, yeah, we're doing well. She is starting to smile, and she's starting to coo, like she wants to talk to us, and she's a lot more alert. Uh, so, yeah, I know it's taking forever for me to get this video up, but we haven't had internet in our house since um, a little bit after we came home. So that's why, because this would have been up as soon as I got home when everything was fresh, all the memories and everything. But I just couldn't upload it. So here is the time I've taken. I'll have to do another update about what's been going on and how things have changed since she's been born. And it hasn't been anything with her or my marriage or anything. We're in a really tough spot, but we're doing fine. We're gonna be doing fine. But hey, baby, hi, hi, baby. Yeah. So yeah, that is all, and I hope to get this video up really soon. I'm gonna try to figure out how to get these videos in there. I don't want to get them in there when they're choppy like how they are and all that. So um, we'll see. So I guess this is my labor and delivery video. So I'll talk to all of you guys later. I'm sorry it's so long, but this is the story. So say bye, baby. Bye. Bye.